Hey, you guys. It's Saturday again. I'm at Panera again, which means we're working on our working conversation. How you guys doing? I'm doing amazing. Waiting on this counter to. There we go. Morning again. We're working on this working conversation for outlining the map for book two, which should be complete by the end of the year. I'm going to jump right in because we have a lot of material covering. Last time it took a ways to get there. We're going to break this conversation down the way we did before, 15-minute segments. Uh, I'm not doing this for other people to watch and participate in, but if you see it and you're interested, feel free to engage. I'm doing this for me because it's easier for me to clarify my thoughts and hear the holes in some of the presentations that I'm making. So that's why I'm on this format. Good morning again. Actually, it's afternoon now. Um, and so I'm going to jump right in. There is and I'm not exactly sure how this scripture came back to my mind in the context of this book. So I'll just read it. He who loves his life shall lose it. He who hates his life will keep it for eternal life. John 12:25. I think this is a very interesting paradox there that doesn't get talked about. But I think there is a way in which, before I began this work, I loved my life. By that, I mean to say, I protected it, I guarded it, I treasured it, I invested in it. And in the process, when it led me astray, I went astray with it and almost went down with it. So I definitely relate to the first part. The second part, he who hates his life will keep it. I think that there's a mystery there. There's mystery in the whole thing, but there's a mystery there that perhaps will be revealed throughout the course of the book. Next point I made was bloom in your own garden. I was thinking about alternative titles for the book. Bloom where you're planted, bloom in your own garden. Instead of chasing a thing, be great in the thing you're already in. And I also mentioned something about building rockets out of cotton, which is just the interesting enigma of Huntsville, Alabama, to be so rich in the agricultural history and for so many of the families to be identified as agrarian, to then transition in the 20th century to being this uh, technology capital is really interesting, to go from cotton to rockets as our primary product. I think it's interesting. This came from The Internship, the movie with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. And I think this goes into the discovery chapter, which is chapter, what's discovery? One. I can't blame you for being a little afraid. Hell, we were scared for a long time out there, grinding it out with our heads down, and Lord knows I've fallen on my ass more than a time or two, but I promise you something. You lift your head up, take a breath. There's a lot of great possibilities out there. It's all waiting at the click of a button. Everybody's searching for something. I just think that's just really cool. I don't know yet how I'm going to use that, but it's just really cool. Here's a link from the Economist uh, editorial. Trying to see what it says, what the title is. It doesn't say what the title is. The Perfectionism Trap, which of course I relate to. After that, William Glasser. He's a writer. We may be doing the same thing. I'm just making a note to myself that the work that he does, particularly around choice theory, is going to be very much related to what happens in this book. And I included a link for him. Chapter one on survival, the power of a routine during a period of great wonder and chaos, challenging times. Yeah, this is just from my own experience. I discovered the power of a routine, particularly during the pandemic, how important it was for me to have a place to go, to have an agenda, have goals set for each day and each week, even though there wasn't anything external calling me, like a job or a particular organization that I was a part of. I created it for myself. And I think one of the reasons why I'm where I am now is because I didn't wait for something external to prompt me. I figured out how to prompt myself. Bonhoeffer, one of my favorite uh, people, writers, activists, theologians. There is an Amazon link for Cost of Discipleship, which I probably need to download this week. And then there's also a link from The Guardian from the Life and Style section. It's October 12th, so this just came out. Time millionaires meet the people pursuing the pleasure of leisure. I have to check that out. I'm not sure now what that was about. Questlove, music is history. Oh yeah. So on the way to one of these writing sessions, I heard the interview on Fresh Air with Questlove's new book, Music is History. It actually hadn't come out yet. It may be out this week. I'll have to see. It may not be coming out to November, but I also have made notes to look at his prior work because I didn't realize he had published. Imaginary Worlds podcast, Faith and Fantasy. It's another segment that I heard that day that I need to check into. When Heaven is Not Enough. This was a Watchmen episode 8. And the end, the box of photographs. Oh, this is another thing. Box of photographs. This is a PRX um, podcast episode. Box of photographs, I believe, is about this daughter sister having a box of photographs from her family and how the photographs documented her, I don't want to say selective memory, adaptive memory. Her memory actually changed from what it actually was. The pictures showed different situations, and she remembered all of those situations differently. So that podcast is about that. Professor says to Logan, I always know who you are. It's just sometimes I don't recognize you. Yeah, so this is a quote from Professor X in Logan, which I need to watch again. I don't know. Maybe I was sleepy when I watched Logan the first time, but that movie is so deep about all the stuff that Logan is going through, and I didn't catch it the first time, but it's an amazing movie on the mystery of memory. So I'm kind of I'm including a PRX story link, and I also have PaulaFNelson.com. She was the one who did the podcast that I was just talking about, box of photographs. Happiness is practice, not pleasure. Oh, I heard this the other day, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Part of the original concept for the book was to explore what is happiness and how do we attain it and how do we lose it. And this kind of just says what I just got through saying a minute ago about routine. Happiness is not a condition, it is an action. It's something that you do. This was a PRX episode, and the episode was Becoming Wise. And I included the link here. Matthew Ricard. His name isn't pronounced Matthew. I forget how to pronounce it, but it's a French pronunciation. And I downloaded two books from him that I think are going to be huge. One is called Happiness, and the other one is called Altruism. I downloaded 10 books from a new website that I found. The books are Feeding the Soul, A Course in Miracles, Becoming Wise, The Power of Myth, Untamed, Love Warrior, Unbound, Tantra Illuminated, The Hero's Journey. This is Joseph Campbell and his work, and The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. So those are all books in my library, and I think they all have something to contribute. In some ways, I've already talked about the contribution, but others of them are just favorite books that I remember will have some overlapping theme. If forms always contain and confine, and if it is impossible to imagine societies without forms, then the most strategic political action will not come from revealing or exposing illusion, but rather from a careful, nuanced understanding of the many different and often disconnected arrangements that govern social experience. I don't even know how I found this quote. Carolyn Levine or Levine. Oh my God, quote. Forms. Forms is another big theme that I knew initially back when I started thinking about this chapter, this book, in terms of reality perception. Forms is a big part of that discussion, and then also when you're talking about Richard Johnson's work, inner work, and the ability for you to create yourself from your blueprint. That there are these constructs, is the word that I generally use instead of forms, but there are these forms in your head that make you see yourself before you manifest. And a lot of times, because of our prior life experiences, we have a limited selection of forms. And a lot of times, once we get down a path, we decide we're not happy with it, but we did not adequately explore the alternatives before we chose path. And of course, my life is about getting off one path and getting on another, which you don't hear a lot about. On hating life, October 10, 21. I think this is new, a new note, and an important crux for the books. This is a new book. There's this feeling I've had for most months of the last several years where it feels like I'm in prison. I know what I want to do. I see others doing it, but I can't. It's more than grass is greener. It's the sense that there is abundance right next to me, but not for me. Ooh, sounds like a black man wrote this. I'll have to go back and see. Somehow, I have not qualified for it, but I don't know why. And every once in a while, I build up the courage to go to the warden and ask for consideration, and again, I am denied. At a certain point, I begin to wonder whether it will ever be any different than it is. I think of this today because now I think there is something about this phenomenon that I've always known but never quite accepted. That thinking about the new possibilities and potentialities that come with this new opportunity, I'm reminded that I haven't felt like this in years. And what's more is I've had to apologize to so many people all along the way for not being able to do my part or share in their celebration of life. Somehow I've not been any of these moments. I've not been in any of these moments because I've been distracted with the feeling of being relegated to the margins where I know I don't belong. It's not about humility, but it's been very humbling. What's more is that I'm painfully aware that at some point I've chosen this, the harder way. This independent march to your own beat life that messes with me makes me feel so alien to the typical human experience. But again, somehow I know this is how I must feel until I'm whatever I'm working on works out. Boy, that's good. I just love that. So I guess we have time to do one more. True Detective, season one transcripts. We all fit a certain category. A lot of it had to do with how they manage authority. Any of those types can be a good detective, or can also be a shitheel. There can be a burden in authority and vigilance, like a father's burden. It's too much for some men. A smart guy who's steady is hard to find. Second week, I saw where he was living. Okay, now I remember. I saw where he was living. Kind of made me feel for the guy. Past a certain age, a man without a family can be a bad thing. The depression I experienced in 2014 moving back home, the alcohol, the friends, the aimlessness, the hopelessness, the despair, and loneliness. I hadn't lived in Alabama in almost 20 years. None of my friends were here. My life wasn't here. Nothing to do but stay intoxicated in this sleepy, dreary, Bible thumping fundamentalist town that God seems to have forgotten about. I'm talking about Huntsville right there. I'm told that they won't like my accent here. Conversation with James Walker at the Washington Square Cafe, downtown Athens. Conversation was about me being here. It's like they don't even know the rest of the world exists. Might as well be living on the moon. There's all kind of ghettos in the world. Okay, so I just I started out with True Detective, and then I went into my own diatribe, and now I'm back. I'm 'cause- yeah, yeah, yeah. There's all kinds of ghettos in the world. Nah, it's all one ghetto. Giant gutter in outer space. And this is me again. To add insult to industry, to add insult to injury, Donald Trump is about to run for president. Oh, this is me reflecting on 2016. The incident with the police, which I got to talk about, and how I almost got arrested my first summer back. I just heard on the radio about song Foo Fighters founder on PRX, do a thing for the sake of a thing. That's play. Then you will be stable when outcomes vary from the highest positive to the lowest negative. Play, yeah. I'm indicating what chapter that goes in. You're Christian, yes. I'm back to True Detective now. But what about the cross? Well, that's a form of meditation. I contemplate the moment in the garden, the idea of allowing your own crucifixion. But you're not a Christian, so what do you believe? I consider myself a realist, okay? But in philosophical terms, that I'm what's called a pessimist. Okay, what does that mean? It means I'm bad at parties. Let me tell you, you ain't great outside parties either. All right, so I'm gonna stop right there. Thank you guys.